Go ahead and go live for us. All right, well, good morning. I am Mario Gangemi, the chair of the MDTA Capital Committee, and conducting today's meeting, which I call to order on Thursday, September 4th, 2025, and it is 9:01 a.m. In accordance with the live streaming law, this meeting is conducted via video conference and live streamed on the MDTA Capital Committee page. As a reminder, all members of the Capital Committee will have their video active during the entirety of the meeting. And to minimize background noise, I do ask that everyone on the line mute your phones, tablets, computers. And if you're presenting or answering a question, please have both your video and audio on when speaking. And when done, please turn your video off and audio back on mute, unless, of course, you're a committee member. There are no members of the public, no elected officials, and no media that have pre-registered to comment at today's, so we can move on to agenda item number 1, which is approval of the open session meeting minutes of August 7th, 2025. So I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. Member Cordova.
Right. Member Cordova. Member Sneed, second.
Second.
All in favor, unless there's a discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that was everybody. And now we can go on to the Office of Engineering and Construction's presentation on environmental review and permitting by Tixtu Belay. And you should have that presentation in your materials.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much for the time to take you through some of these OEC processes. So good morning, everyone. My name is Tixtu Belay. I'm the Environmental Review and Permitting Lead at Environmental Engineering and Engineering Discipline in Office of Engineering and Construction. I'm going to take you through projects review and permitting, particularly to give you an overview on the program and the permitting process, which focus on one of the most common permits you might be familiar with also. Starting with slide number 1, that one is to show where this environmental review and program fits in with MDTA's Office of Engineering and Construction. We have 6 engineering disciplines under one of the 2 directors of engineering within OEC. The environmental engineering discipline, it's charged with management of environmental assets. We are looking at stormwater drainage, stormwater management, small drainage facilities. The other area of responsibility for the discipline is support to MDTA's compliance, permitting and compliance for its operations and its construction projects. ERP program within this discipline basically covers the environmental review and permitting for construction projects. On the next slide, to touch on some of these program objectives. So the environmental review and permitting, it supports project management teams that oversee construction projects across MDTA. Most of the projects we deal with are construction projects initiated at the Office of Engineering Construction, but anything that has disturbance exceeding certain thresholds, whether it's coming from DOIT or other divisions or offices, it still is something we help on or support project management teams on. The other area is as a program, it has a centralized role for managing and tracking permits. And why we do that is because there is mitigation banks, stormwater management, water quality banks who have to maintain MDTA-wide reporting to MDE and other regulatory agencies on MDTA-wide activities. That also is routed through this program. And we also directly coordinate with regulatory agencies, manage resources, which includes consultant reviewers that work on behalf of regulatory agencies. Another area is we also manage general approvals, MOUs, memorandum of agreements that are entered with regulatory agencies. So it's like a central responsibility area for MDTA-wide permitting and compliance as well. Next slide, number 4. So why do environmental permitting and how do we fit it with OEC's project delivery? So the goal of environmental rules and regulations is broadly to protect environmental resources. Those would be streams, wetlands, and waterways, trees, historical sites, threatened and endangered species. And with that objective, regulations set certain requirements to be made during design development for construction projects and actual construction work. How we approach that for MDTA projects is for invitation for bids, IFBs, it has a permitting checklist, which is it network issue? Looks like there was some interruption. Okay, looks like it's fine now. So we have this environmental permitting checklist in the standard IFB template. That is where project management teams working with the environmental review and permitting program ensure applicable permits are acquired before projects go to construction. That is what you are seeing, a screen grab of it from the IFB template. As you can see, there are two distinct permitting areas. One is sediment control, stormwater management, and dam safety. All of these go to MD's SSPRD division, and also in rare cases when we have disturbance on the western side of Bay Bridge, Anne Arundel County, SC Dam, Soil Conservation District. The second category is natural resource permitting. As the name implies, this is more focused on natural resources, tidal and non-tidal wetlands and waterways, water quality certification, Coast Guard permit, critical area commission approval and such. So to kind of give an overview on the typical process, I'm going to use MDE sediment control and stormwater management plan approval on the subsequent slides. So on slide number 5, why do we do stormwater sediment control, erosion and sediment control? So the objective is to prevent discharge of sediment during construction. So it is a mitigation control practice activity that is done during construction phase to mitigate adverse impacts. So the construction phase element is important because that is what makes it distinct from stormwater management. So the permit is triggered, I should clarify, when we say plan approval is triggered by these thresholds, it doesn't mean we don't do erosion and sediment control for projects with lower thresholds or lower disturbance quantities. It just means with these thresholds being met, we have to acquire permits or approvals from regulatory agencies. So for erosion and sediment control, the trigger is earth disturbance of 5,000 square feet or 100 cubic yards. Anything with that, with disturbance exceeding those, we have to pursue approval from Department of the Environment. Next slide, slide number 6. Stormwater management. This one is to mitigate impacts post-construction. So a good example is if there's a parking lot project or new, let's say, additional lane or pavement expansion project, with the increase in impervious area would have higher peak discharges to adjoining properties or to the downstream channel. And with impervious cover now, there would be more pollutants that would be discharged to our environmental resources. So the impact is permanent, which would mean the mitigation is also a facility that is to be a permanent fixture. So post-construction adverse impact, that is what we are mitigating here, and we install permanent facilities. The threshold for this to seek approval, develop plans and seek approval is disturbance of 5,000 square feet and typically impact to impervious area, either redeveloping impervious area or creating new impervious area. Now on slide 7, this is to show how the approval process fits in with project delivery. MDTA projects goes through certain milestones from design NTP to 30% design, which is also called TSNL, and then semi-final 60% design, 90% final. There are like standard milestones projects have to go through. So where the permitting fits here is at design NTP, our group helps with defining scope of services, and in collaboration, there has to be some kind of screening to ID what potential permits might be required later on. So it's preliminary screening basically, because the scope of services to the designers has to also set these assumptions, because that's the purpose of the scope. Towards the 30% design, concept stormwater management plans are developed, and by TSNL or 30% design milestone, standard requirement is to get concept approval. MDE sets certain requirements for concept. Subsequent milestones at semi-final or 60%. And final, from permitting standpoint, there is actually a combined approval stage that covers both almost as one milestone or phase. So at this stage, stormwater management, erosion and sediment control plans would be advanced. Erosion and sediment control is actually introduced at this point, the plans for the controls and practices. And at 90% design milestone, we also pursue construction general permit notice of intent. That one is for construction projects with disturbance exceeding 1 acre. PSND, that is a target milestone to have permits in hand, because before advertisements, the goal is to have all permits in hand, and not deal with an addenda to cover maybe delayed permit, or basically at advertisements, that's the goal, to have all permits in hand. During construction, it is kicked off with pre-construction meeting. This is where the construction team, MDT's construction staff, representatives from our program, and also representatives from regulatory agencies or meet on the site and go over the plans and the strategy, what the process would be, procedures, and such. Now, during construction, that's where the compliance activities come in. Inspections are done throughout for erosion and sediment control, stormwater management. There are all these guidelines, procedural documents, manuals that are out there that sets criteria for how often inspections have to be done, the scope of the inspections, and the process for modifying plans. That's actually a critical element of it. Construction activities often have plan modifications due to field conditions that are somehow different from what was assumed during design or engineering design. There is reporting requirements as well. One example I can give you is as part of the construction general permit, we have to actually report, or the project management team, construction staff have to report once as quarterly on turbidity monitoring as part of that construction general permit I mentioned earlier. That is triggered with disturbance of 1 acres. We have to actually do turbidity monitoring when conducting or performing certain activities. So there is a reporting element as well throughout construction, not just at closeout. So at project closeout, we are looking at as-built acceptance for permanently installed facilities, and also MDE compliance inspectors would like to wait, what is installed, they basically would like to be present at this stage. So just like with a pre-con meeting, there might be a field meeting that involves MDE compliance inspectors. Next slide. This one is to take you through the typical parties and stakeholders involved. This one I'll be brief because it's self-explanatory. Designer under the PM, project manager, they are responsible for developing engineering plans, pulling together application packages that would go or be submitted to regulatory agencies, and as comments come in, they address comments and modify their plans. Sorry. The environmental review and permitting team or group, we provide guidance to project managers and designers on the overall permitting process, some of lessons from other projects and such. We also perform review as representatives of environmental engineering division, because the division or discipline is owner of the environmental assets, so we have to weight impacts to those assets as well. We coordinate directly with regulatory agencies, assign reviewers, and compliance reporting. Consultant reviewers are reviewers approved by MDE to perform on behalf of MDE, but paid for by MDTA. This is basically staff augmentation to MDE, except we pay for them, the client. And then there is regulatory agency staff who review and approve plans, projects, are charged with or have the authority to interpret policies, rules, regulations, manuals, and such. The typical workflow is at the MDTA side, we have the design development that is performed by a designer, PM. Then application packages are submitted to environmental review and permitting program. We do administrative reviews, some asset owner review, and basically clear the submission to go to MDE. If we have comments we believe have to be addressed before submission to MDE, we return to designer with comments. So once the application packages are ready, they are submitted to MDE. In this, at MDE, we basically have 2 rounds of reviews. The consultant reviewer performs review. If they pick up on issues or concerns, they return comments to MDTA, that is for the designer to address. But when they are satisfied with the latest submission package, they recommend these plans for approval. That's where MD staff reviewers pick up on them. So if they have comments, we go through the same process for addressing comments. When they are good with the plans, they issue approvals, approval letters and stamps on the plan drawings. Some of the challenge and some of the improvements we are making, to go over them over the next 2 slides. The challenge have been MDE regulatory agencies are short-staffed. They really are like short on resources, manpower. We kind of sympathize with them because of that. But that has meant the review turnaround times, the permitting process, it has been challenging to be predictable for our project planning. Lately, we have also been dealing with regulations that are continuously evolving. If necessary, we would touch upon them another time. And then there is QA/QC issues. This one is something we put on MDT side, or more specifically on designers. Sometimes the quality is subpar, and responding to regulatory agency comments and concerns is not satisfactorily done. Next slide on 11, slide number 11. These are ideas for improvements. Some of them we are implementing or we have already implemented. Others we are working towards. So we are collaborating with regulatory agencies. As an example, we now have, it has been actually nearly a year or so, we have monthly meetings with MDE to go over our projects, basically prioritize or share our priorities on projects and such. That has been helpful. On project management side, there has to be a process where clear expectations and targets are set, performance and progress being evaluated, and lessons learned or taken for other projects. Identify typical challenge for permitting. Procedural improvements. This is something we are doing. Internal guidelines, forms, checklists, conducting training presentations, and maintaining accessible documentation or data repository where, like I was saying, maybe it's lessons or typical challenge we have picked up on, we want them to be accessible. Innovative solutions, this one I was going to mention, the general approvals we are working on. We try to engage now with regulatory agencies to execute general approvals, MOUs, for typical or small scale projects. With that, I was adding 2 pictures on the slide number 13 to show you what might be one of these facilities you drive by on your daily commute. This one at mile marker 46.9 along I-95 in a Gore area. This is a microbial tension to provide basically stormwater management treatment for the adjoining impervious area. So you see another example along I-95. This one is a detention pond. This might also be something you see. So this is what is being installed for permanent mitigation of impacts over water quality and quantity. With that, that closes it. And if anyone has any questions, let me know. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you very much. A lot there, a lot to digest. Knowing from my side that the forest bill takes effect next July, what do you think the impact's going to be to us on that? Or
Right.
probably haven't something you figured out yet, but what do you think the impact that's going to be? And is there enough room around some of these stormwater ponds to plant some trees to start our own bank for future projects?
We actually have a tree mitigation bag. It's not across all MDTA facilities, but we have some certainly for I-895 and 695. But these days we actually have constraints on right-of-way for planting, installing stormwater management facilities. So looking forward, we might actually deal with acquiring right-of-way for developing these mitigation bags, stormwater management credits, and have tree planting areas to utilize.
Just something to think about, because I know the impacts with the new law are pretty significant. So
Yes, they keep coming.
actually, Maricela has her hand up, so I'll let her first.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It was very interesting. I have a question kind of following up to Mario's question. How does MDTA deal with outreach and education of the public when it comes to this type of facilities? And the reason I'm asking this question is because we in our jurisdiction have been having some instances where new stormwater management facilities and ponds are installed, and when we come in and we build them, they are left in perfect condition, and the structures are working, and they're all mowed and pretty. And our residents take it upon themselves to turn that into pollinator gardens and these kind of crazy jungles that when we come back and inspect them are overgrown and completely taking over all of the facilities and the structures, which is pretty dangerous, right? Because we're doing this to address a flooding issue and an environmental and erosion issue, and it becomes a separate issue. And when we come and mow and clean up, the residents are getting angry at us because we're destroying the ecosystem, right? So I'm just wondering if MDTA is dealing with any of this in any of these issues.
I can mention two separate things. One is what we do as part of public outreach and education is to hold some events during Earth Day and pulling on training materials, presentations that are open for the public. We might be looking at a very limited audience because not a lot of residents might be actually coming to these events, but Earth Day events and presentations are one element. But some idea we are actually working on is to have a public-facing website on these stormwater management facilities that would basically show or present the objectives of them, what we have constructed in our throughout MDTA facilities, and what the process would be for reporting on issues on them, and the coordination needs. Basically, if we can show on GIS maps that are accessible to residents these facilities and clear up the objectives or what they're accomplishing. Basically, there is a purpose for the vegetation we have, there is a purpose for the forbe we have, there is a reason why we actually have to clear trees from embankments. So with inventory being accessible, obviously we have to limit information we share with everyone, but having a public-facing website with this information and with guidelines on reporting, coordinating with MDTA, I think that might be helpful.
Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Member Cox, you had something?
No, I'm good now. Thank you.
Okay. Well,
Okay,
great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Bruce is now going to give us an update on the Francis Scott Key Bridge related to authorizations, expenditures, reimbursements, just kind of give us a thumbnail of where we are.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gee, apologies for the background. I'm not in an office. Don't worry, I'm not driving while presenting. But wanted to do the same presentation that we did for the Finance Committee. This is, kind of more traditionally a finance item, but given the nature of the Key Bridge and the federal reimbursements, insurance proceeds, we thought the Capital Committee would be interested in it as well. So the memo before you, as the chairman indicated, summarizes a few things, what the authorizations that you have provided to us for spending have been, the expenditures, and the reimbursements as of the close of the fiscal year. So as of June 30th, we've had more activity since then. We'll be doing these updates periodically, likely quarterly, to help keep the members informed. We've had interest, as well from the federal delegation, obviously, to so that they can track what we have been spending down on, both from the that 60 million that was approved originally, and then our insurance proceeds. So going to the first table on page 2, this just describes for the rebuild, for the actual planning, construction side of things, and showing the 421 million, almost 421 million that has been authorized for funding to date. So that initial design build contract to Kiewit for the 73 million, the different extra work, the change orders that the chief engineer has had authority to approve to keep our design moving forward, with the bridge this size, and with the amount of engineering that goes into it, for us to be very certain of what costs we're going to have before we enter into those guaranteed maximum price, we think was the prudent way to go, as we've explained in board meetings before. And then finally, the 250 million in early work packages that allowed things like the demo and others to proceed. So thank you very much for those approvals that have helped us keep the project going. But going from those approvals of the 421 million down to expenditures, this the second table on that second page shows the different categories that includes both the salvage and debris removal. You can see that effort was about $77 million, so in excess of the some of that early quick release money that we were approved for, and then just the spend down for the progressive design build and the other engineering contracts and staffing costs that we have had. That totals almost $148 million. So with respect to federal reimbursements, as we go through this project, it's been said before, but the ER program is one of the most closely watched for federal eligibility, and we go through the State Highway Administration, so they have been tremendous partners to us in their federal aid program to make sure that all the expenditures that we are contributing to these federal funds are accurate. So it's almost like it's extensive review and verification before you even submit for reimbursement. So that's why you see some of that lag in the incoming receipt of the ER funds. But as of June 30th, we did have the almost $21 million in emergency release ER funds that have been both invoiced and then received back from the federal government. We're also using insurance proceeds. So the second table on the third page, of the $350 million in insurance proceeds, plus interest above that we have available to us. We use that 25 million for the salvage and debris removal. The rest will be applied towards the construction activities. So with the remaining insurance proceeds, we think that'll be available to us through November, before we start going into any more of the federally authorized funding for the Key Bridge and the rebuild. And as a reminder, we will pay for those things in advance, and then seek reimbursement on those as well through the ER program. So we'll be having more information on that process as we get into the larger ask later this year. But we thought this would be a good baseline of information as of the close of the last fiscal year to show you where we have been. We have many more invoices that are right on the cusp of being reimbursed. We've had some since July 1st. Will Pines and Deb and I were on the phone yesterday, just touching base on where things stand and where state highways can help now that they've essentially closed out their federal fiscal year. It's a lot of federal aid work there that we need to just be cognizant and, that their staffing resources. But that ends my presentation on the FSK reimbursements and expenditures to date through that fiscal year.
Thank you, Bruce, and I'm glad you didn't present while driving.
That would have been a challenge for everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions from the group here? I mean, I think the memo was pretty clear, so that was helpful. So thank you. Any questions?
When will the next update be? Will it be fall or winter, Bruce?
So we'll want to try to do expenditures through October. So we might not hit the October Capital Committee. We'll probably either at the October board or in November, we'll give another update.
And has there been a formal response to the U.S. DOT Secretary's comments, or?
When you mean formal, we provided some information, but when the press had asked us about, what, our position is, we're working very closely with Federal Highway Administration staff. They're approving these advanced work packages. They're in all those ongoing cost estimations. So we've gotten a tremendous help at the staff level from Federal Highways. We're doing what we can on these major bridge projects that are experiencing all sorts of interesting challenges across the country. We're just one of them.
So they're completely aware of all the invoicing and everything as we move forward. So that's a good thing to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's through federal FMIS. So we're going to them sometimes before we even officially submit things, so that they can comment on our submissions at that level. So a lot of coordination between both the division office of Federal Highway, SHA, and our MDTA staff. And we have brought on consultant resources just to help with that process, because it is such a huge undertaking.
Thank you, Bruce.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Bruce. Be safe on your continued drive. And with that, we have concluded our items for discussion. So I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
So moved, Sneed, second by Member Cox. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
With everybody be safe.